Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karabhavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu Mama Angani Vakpranas Chakshuh Shrotramatho Balumindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirteya Upanishatsu Ved Upanishatsu Brahma Dharmaha Te Mai Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us chant verse number 5 of the second chapter on page number 26. Iha ched avedid atha satyamasti. Iha ched avedid atha satyamasti. Nached iha avedin mahati vinashti. Nached iha vedin mahati vinashti. Bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhiraha. Pretya asmat lokat amrita bhavanti. Pretya asmat lokat amrita bhavanti. Okay, so let us move on. We will summarize, in fact probably go through with some detail or the rest of the Kena Upanishad. So I think we have now concluded, as we saw in the last week, this important verse, Pratibodha Viditam Matam Amritatvam hi vindate Atmana vindate Viryam Vidyaya vindate Mritam. Some words, just something triggered my mind. Atmana vindate Viryam Vidyaya vindate Amritam. So one thing we should know is that in this whole study of the Shastra, the Vedanta Shastra, the Upanishads and teaching and so on, in this whole process of learning and applying and all those kinds of things, one thing we should remember, and the Shastra reminds us from time to time, and this particular verse also reminds us, that's what triggered my mind, is Atmana vindate Viryam. So here the question is, here Swami Paramatmananda has translated Atmana as through a prepared mind. Through a prepared mind. And it's the right translation. The sense, however, of that I think we should get out of this is that we have to make up our minds and see this truth with our own sankalpa. So there's a lot of personal responsibility here. With the help of Ishvara's anugraha, which we are going to see more of today, but regardless of this, we just have to make up our minds that this is what I want to do. And we do not make up our minds on what to do until we have some data and some idea that this is really the right thing for me to do. So, in Swami Maheshananji's words, the Shastra gives us the entire plate of food to eat. Thali. In India, the whole combination of things. If you go to the Indian restaurants also, you will see, I'm talking to people who are non-Indians, so I'm just saying that you are very familiar with that as also. You can go to these restaurants and you get this word called thali. So thali means a complete plate which has lots of different things around it. So you have some sambar, you have some chutney, you have some potato, some vegetable, some dosa or some puri, some aloo and all that. It's all ready to go. So you've got to have this thali which has been served to you. You ordered it and it is now served to you. But now what you have to do is you have to eat it. To get the benefit of the food, you have to partake of it. You cannot tell the restaurant, okay, I'm done. You have served it and you eat it, or you feed it to me. They won't feed it to you. That's not the proper thing to do, unless you are so sick that you cannot eat, and then they force feed you through a tube. That's a separate thing. But in a normal case, you have to eat. So very similarly here, it is pointed out again and again in a very subtle manner, because it appears that I'm waiting for some things to happen to me. I find that you feel I haven't read enough, I have to read some more, I have to attend more classes. So you keep on depending on the outside teaching and this is kind of like you're ordering the food in a restaurant. This is what I want, this is what I want. So the Shastra gives you some ideas on what to get, what kind of sadhanas to get. You have to give up these things, you have to do these things. All of that is required for you to follow the instructions. But ultimately, you and I have to really put it together for our own benefit. We have to do this. So this we means all of the things at my disposal, including the most important thing, which is the mind. And that mind associated with my effort, associated with my keeping good health, enthusiasm, all those kinds of things is what is called Atmana Vindate Viryam. Viryam here means the capacity to understand. And what we have to think about is we have to take personal responsibility that I will do it. So when when the Shastra gives you this enormous truth about yourself, then you have to figure out, why is it that I don't get it yet? And you have to apply, and the Shastra also gives you the hints on how to do it, what is missing in you, what kind of sadhana you used to do. All of that is also given. It's not as though you are on your own. In fact, you will see later on that with this Shraddha, you have to sort of take the help of Ishvara in gaining the results of this enormous promise. But then you have to also put the effort in. And so you have to take the personal responsibility. You cannot say that, I've been studying for so long and I don't know what else to do, and I don't know what, how to do this and so on. Figure it out. And be enthusiastic and have the best thing for you. Because if we don't do it, then we have wasted a tremendous opportunity in this life. Because really the goal of human life is to become free before we die. Because it's not possible to be free after we die, because the same thing will happen again. So what we have to do is to really prepare for an understanding. In other words, to reach the Paramatma, reach Parameshvara. So this is the partnership that we have. There are really two people. No one else in our life, not even our family, not even our parents, spouses, children, none of them need to take this responsibility. They'll all help. But there are two people that have to work together to attain this sense of freedom, moksha in this life. That is the Jiva and Parameshvara. And the roles of both of them have to be very clearly seen, as we will see today itself. We'll get into that in a minute. But that's what needs to be done. And if we don't do it, we have really wasted a tremendous opportunity. It is really sad that in this day of age, this age and day, the effort to get free is not easily available. In some other yugas, in other eras, the moment you are born, your whole family and the society will train you to gain this freedom. It's not there today. So now we have to do it despite all the influences, ignorant influences. Our families also don't know. Some of them they do. I shouldn't say that. Some of you have also told that your mothers and fathers have really given you a very good start and so on. And mine have also to a certain extent. Some of us have not been that fortunate. And certainly the society as such, again, has provided no guidance on how to be systematically engaged in order to be happy. They have told us how to become rich, to be popular, and to be healthy, but not to gain happiness per se. And so it's unfortunate, but nevertheless the point is that if we have the opportunity of figuring out what are we doing here, what is our goal, it is to gain freedom before we die. If we don't, it's a big loss. This is what verse number 5 summarizes for us. So it says, Iha ched avedit. If you can figure this out, avedit means that if you can get it, what is being given as an instruction, if you can understand that and get the truth of it right here. Iha means asmin janmani, in this life while you're alive. Satyam asti. You have attained satyam. Satyam means complete freedom from any limitations, freedom from time, certainly death. You're done. You're free. If you were to attain this and figure it out right in this life, so wonderful that you have attained the highest that is possible in this life. Oppositely to that, nacha iha avedi, in the second line, nache iha avedit mahati vinashti. He says that despite taking the birth as a human being, because the human being is now qualified. The very fact that you and I are human beings, not any other beings, but human beings, means we have entered the school of freedom, college of freedom. You can even call this life as a college of freedom, because if you and I were animals, cats, dogs, elephants, tigers, and so on, we are just biding this time. We are biding the Parameshwara's order. We don't have the qualifications to enter the college of freedom. But the moment you and I become human beings, we are potentially qualified. Potentially qualified means now we have to figure it out. We have to understand what's involved, what is freedom, how to get it, and then really achieve it. And if we don't, then we have wasted a tremendous chance, because we have a number of good and bad deeds in our past. And through the grace of Ishvara, we have now chosen the right combination of punya and papa to get a human birth. Ishvara has high hopes for us. I think that's good. He's a human being. He should be able to now enter this college of freedom. And if we stray from that, then a lot of the punyas that were used up in giving me this birth have gone to waste. And all the acharyas say, this is a great loss. We don't know where you will be in your next life. There's no guarantee. Because you may have really borrowed some punyas. You may have altered the priority of the punya to gain this birth. And during this birth, you have committed a lot of papas also. And so it's very possible that in the next life, you may not have a human life. You may have to wait for a long time. And even if you get a human life, you have no opportunity to become a human being. It's a human life, but you act like an animal, which a lot of people do. In fact, it is said that anyone who spends the life in a similar fashion like that of an animal, which is to survive, to eat, to have fun, and to procreate. These are the minimum qualifications of any living being. This is the animal existence. But the human existence is that we do the viveka, we do this discriminative inquiry as to what is the source of my happiness. Animals cannot do that. They also, by the way, get the same sources of happiness as you and I do. They eat, they have sex, they have protection against rain to a certain extent, and so on. So they are also outward bound in terms of understanding what gives them pleasure, how to avoid danger. I live in a very hilly area, and you can see the play at work where the people who are depending on eating the smaller animals are on the prey. Especially I see these big birds. That is just an amazing sight. I think I told you that. But I see some of them really just quickly going through, and they carry squirrels, huge birds. I've seen that. And these squirrels are also trying to avoid them. So this hide and seek is going on. So the animals also can be happy based on how best they are negotiating through life and so on, as we do too. But there is no sense of thinking because the mind is not there. But the human beings do. And so this verse says that you should use your discriminative powers. How we do that, we will discuss further, but it's important that you figure it out, you get it, and you take personal responsibility for doing it. So he says, Nached iha avedit mahati vinashti. It's a great loss. You have no idea what will be. Don't know where you'll be born again, in what circumstance. You may be born again in Afghanistan or Iraq, where just the normal living is a hell. You are attacked by all kinds of people, you're blown up, you're praying in a temple, in a mosque, and all of a sudden there's a big bomb. What kind of a life that is? We don't know. We might be born in that country. It's very fortunate that we are living place where we have some stability. So, and then the last two lines is Bhuteshu Bhuteshu Vichitya Dhiraha Pretya Asmat Lokat Amritat Bhavanti. That if you are able to do this discrimination, and that my status is that of a person who is present in all. My consciousness, my sakshitvam, is really Ishvara sakshitvam, which is the same in all of us. If you peel back the onion from the people's personalities, the core is the same, which is Bhuteshu Bhuteshu Sarvatma. And if we understand, here Swami, a year ago when there was a function in the ashram, and Swami Tadatmananda made a very beautiful speech. He said, and this was when we were under the strange leadership of Trump, and there was so much enmity between people and so much and so on, so much differences between parties and all that. So Swami Dadatmananda says, in this day and age, what we need to do is to understand what is my pure nature. Before we become friendly with others, before we attempt to understand others, that's the point, that beautiful point. Just look at this. He said, before we understand the truth about other people, we have to understand the truth about ourselves. And that is a very beautiful thing to say, because if I understand the truth about myself, I also understand the truth about others. And just like I accept myself, I accept others. And that's really the only way. So this is what is being said. Bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhiraha. The wise ones, the very brave ones. The word dhira means both wise and brave. Brave in the sense of bucking the trend of the normal thinking. Normal thinking is everybody is different. Just take care of yourself. Don't worry about anybody else, and so on. And that is the easy way out. But the more stronger way of looking at things is that no. We are a big family. Everybody is the same. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Vasudha eva Kutumbakam. And so, if this is the person who is a dhira, both from the standpoint of wisdom as well as strength. And then if we do that, leaving this body, you are already Amrita Bhavanti, and then you become Videha Mukta. Jivan Mukta becomes Videha Mukta. So this is the chapter number 2 ends with this. This is a very important verse, often quoted. Iha ched avedit atha satyam asti. Nached iha avedit mahati vinashti. Just these two lines are used. The second part of that is not often quoted as much as the first line. Beautiful. So what it says is, please take responsibility and figure this out. So now we begin the third chapter. So before we begin this third chapter, a kind of a preamble to understand the importance and the conceptual thinking of the third chapter. So we had said a little while ago that we have Atmana Vindate Viryam. We have to take personal responsibility for gathering all of the information that that is being served as a thali to me, and partaking it. Not finished, not leaving until the meal is finished. That's my responsibility. So here we should see, as I said earlier, that to help you to partake this, there is a very important person, who is sitting right next to you, saying, yes, eat it. Eat this one first. Then don't have some chutney. And this is exactly what you do. And that is Ishvara. This is what Mundaka Upanishad says, that sitting on this tree there are two birds who are intricately connected together. One is Jiva and the other one is Ishvara. This is really true. If you look at a body, this body has kind of like right now it has two masters. Ultimately there should only be one master, but right now there are two masters of this body. Two people who are making this body and mind complex go. One is the individual, Jiva, and the other one is Paramatma, Ishvara. Two individuals. So Paramatma is also sitting next to you, helping you, the best friend there is. Best friend. Here, one interesting thing I saw, I read this somewhere, that there was this lady who was asked, I think I may have mentioned this I believe in the Kaivalya class, I'm not sure. So this was a real life case where she was born in Kashmir and was ill-treated by her stepmother, and then she finally went to the forest and just started praying to Shiva and says, please, what's happening to me? Help me. And became a big bhakta. And then she understood it through the teachings of somebody who came to teach her and everything, and she got it. She could understand that my Atma is the Sarvatma. And suddenly she was able to see this is exactly what Bhuteshu Bhuteshu Vichitya Dhiraha, exactly. Anyway, all of that is not relevant to what I was going to say. There, somebody asked her, Mother, hey Devi, tell me who is the best relative for anyone. Out of all the relatives that I have, who should I consider to be the most important? Without hesitation, she said, your Guru. So they said, how? First of all, we don't even consider the Guru to be a relative. We consider the Guru to be a part-time helper. Once a week I go to a class and I listen to this person, and that's it. Then I don't see that person again, don't hear that person again. Maybe twice, but that's about it. But my wife, my husband, my kids, my mother, my father, they are there all the time, protecting me. And this is a fact that if something, oftentimes I find really that it's a frustrating thing that I don't have information about your physical being, well-being. And you write to me and says, I had to go through another chemotherapy, or I had a stroke and so on. I feel bad, but it is impossible for me to really take care of understanding and being with you. So I'm not there all the time. Whereas your wife and your spouse and so on, they're there. So when this question was asked of this lady, who is the best relative for me? And she says, the Guru. So he says, really? How? He says, look at it this way. Your family is based on is through your body. So So this is what is called nimitta karanam. The nimitta karanam means one who is the cause of their relationship to you is your body, is your individuality. Through them they are related to you, isn't it? Your mother and father are dear to you because you have the body of their child. You are the child of theirs. Your spouse is related to you because you are wedded to him or her. Your children, etc., etc. You can see all of that. So, in all other cases, the relationship is through the body. In a way, you can see that they have to pass through the narrow passageway of your body, the specificity of your body. They have to pass through that, through the hole in the whole wall. Let's not go into that. So anyway, through your body. The Guru, on the other hand, Guru meaning the conveyor of this vidya, that's all. Not the person sitting there talking or anything like that, but as the representative of the Shastra. And so therefore an important person, because if the person has studied the subject matter, then he's an accurate ambassador representing the Shastra. That Guru is related to you not through your body. What a beautiful answer this lady gave. So that's the truth. So really speaking, the Guru's relationship to the Shishya is beyond this life. Because this life is through this body. This particular stage of the life is through this body. This is why in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which we have done, Krishna tells Arjuna that at the time nearing the end of your life, especially if you know it, many of us may have a very near end to our life, but we don't know. We think, oh no, it's going to go on for a long time, but I don't have to worry about it. That may be a mistake. But if you were to find out that your life has some limited time, I tell you, there's at least 3 or 4 of our friends are really battling death. They have a terminal illness of some kind or the other. And some of them may not have even months to live. We are aware of that. And I think as you grow older, you will have cases like this. And in those cases, I would very much wish to communicate to them. But I'm unable to. They are not going to listen to me. And even my own sister, she's battling some really bad health. She had COVID, and the COVID has left a very severe mark on her lungs, and she's having difficulty breathing. And then in the meantime, because of the lack of exercise, other issues come up. It's all coming up, but I even my own sister, who I love very dearly, I cannot just talk to her. What I want to, if I could, to her and to all the others, I would say the same message as the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And here Ishvara says, please, isn't it time that you start to disassociate yourself from your relatives? And you begin the association. If you haven't already done so, if you've already done so, then it's okay. Then you strengthen it. But don't you think you should strengthen your relationship with one who is going to be with you through your death and through your next life? Who's responsible for your long-term travel? Isn't that the companion that you should be having it? If you don't, then I don't understand this. Why don't you? Why is it that you don't understand that? You don't believe there's going to be you think there is no companion? You were born by yourself? You can't be that foolish. No, come on. You must understand that. And if you do, why don't you act on it? And remember that person. And really speaking, it doesn't have to be done at the time of death. And I'm not saying, okay, when you're 70 years, supposing you have a lifespan of 70 years, for 65 years you don't even think about it, and then in the last 5 years then you scramble to figure out who my companion is, who is Ishvara, who's going to carry me across the bridge of life. It's not going to happen. It's not because Ishvara is not going to say, oh, I don't you've forgotten me for 65 years of your life, and in the last 5 years I'm insulted. That's not the point. It's just you yourself will not be committed in the last 5 years. You'll have your own self-doubts. So therefore, as soon as this thali is served, thali here means the choices of the various options in your life, which is good food, healthy food, enjoyable food. This is the Shastra, this is the spiritual wisdom. As soon as it is served, you should commit to partake of it. And in doing so, you should see that there are two people. I mean, I can go back to just this one analogy of eating the thali. So when you eat the thali, you have a lot of food in there. Some of them is healthy, some of them is pertaining to your taste, and it's some of them is not that healthy. It's really more to your taste and so on, and you may have difficulty in digesting it. So in order for you eat, because it is supposed to be healthy, it sustains your body. So you have to eat it carefully and slowly and so on. But then you need the help of Ishvara to digest it, to make sure that everything goes well. Just this morning, I don't know why, I was just, from this thali I got reminded. So my wife was telling me a couple of days ago that there is a new restaurant called Mendocino Farms. So she knows that at the lunchtime, if I go out, I prefer to have a sandwich. And so because I work out at about 11 o'clock and I'm quite strenuous and so on, So I'd like to have a decent, not heavy lunch, but one. But she won't even touch any bread or anything. She won't even do that. But I don't mind having a sandwich which has some bread, some vegetables, this, that, or the other. So she told me, oh, there's a new sandwich place that is open close by. It's called Mendocino Farms. Go check it out. So I have to do some other grocery or some. I have to get some milk and so on. So I said, okay, I'll look for it. So I went there, and uh, and I found out that it was they had mostly meat sandwiches, but some of them were vegetarian. I had some difficulty in figuring out which is vegetarian and so on and so forth. And there was one which is a Vietnamese sandwich called banh mi, Banh, and then I think Hi. And I think I've had that before, and it was kind of like a new taste, and it was tasty. So I somehow opted for the vegan banh mi. First of all, I am not going Bogoite. It's so expensive. It's like $13 plus tax plus tip. It's like $17 for a sandwich. I am not going there again unless there is some special occasion or something. Otherwise, Subway is good enough for me. Anyway, I got it. But then, in the afternoon, when I was preparing for this class and I was also doing something else, I had a stomach ache because this sandwich was very spicy. Very spicy. I wasn't prepared for that, and I have a kind of a not a strong stomach, and so I really required Ishvara's help. And and I had some yogurt, and I took some antacid pills, and somehow the other, it's still paining me. My whole tummy is still very tight, but it's better. But I had to resort to Ishvara's help and saying, can you please make sure that I can be able to digest it? I don't want to really fall sick or anything like this. So there's a partnership between Jiva and Ishvara. So even in the eating of the thali, you need help from Ishvara. You are not digesting. And it's such an intricate machinery inside our body. Amazing. Including the Jatara Agni, the fire inside your tummy that cooks the food. You cannot be healthy unless the food is cooked. And so you have bread which is not cooked. You take all kinds of salads and onions and so on and so forth which is not cooked. All of that has to be cooked. Who's going to do that? You're just eating it. Beside the scenes, there is a person who is taking care of it. Even in our normal eating, this is the case. What to speak of the larger canvas of life, not just eating, but in living, in achieving, in gaining freedom. The same partnership is there. So in that partnership, there are two things involved. One is you have to take personal responsibility for gaining freedom. And the second one is you have to become cognizant of the help that Ishvara provides you in your life. If either of these two is missing, mahati vinashti, Because that's exactly what our life situation is. We don't take responsibility for gaining freedom, and we don't recognize Ishvara's contribution in helping me to gain freedom. So as a result, I lead a normal life where I have a distorted view of what is my birth and what is my death. This is the normal. The normal view is that whenever my prana, my life-giving source, life-giving force rather, not source, but life-giving force, prana, gets associated with my physical body, I am born. And as soon as the prana and the body disassociate, it is my death. This is my normal view, isn't it? The normal view. Uncontested, unchallenged, all accepted view. This is exactly what happens. You'll say that person died. Did you know that person passed away? Oh really? Oh my goodness. How? What happened? I don't know. He felt sick and so on, and then so there's a funeral and on such and such day. And the conclusion is this person has died. This is the normal view. This is not what the Vedanta says. This is not what the spiritual, this is not the Shastra says. The Shastra says that you, the individual, so we have an individuality, and so this individuality called, you can call it soul in the Western terminology, or Sukshma Sharira, subtle body in the Vedantic view, remains the same from life to life. So if we just expand on that part for a minute, just look at this. So really speaking, the individual jiva, as individual jivas, you can visualize you are living in the space within your mind. Imagine there is a space within your mind, right? And there is a space within your body. So just visualize this. There is a kind of a place which is a body place, and a place which is a mind place. And I as an individual is identified with both of them. So my identification is with both the mental space and the body space, both the Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira, isn't it? This is what Vedanta says. So in reality what happens is that my association with Sukshma Sharira space is beyond this life. is beyond this life. And in fact, it's interesting, leave aside beyond this life. If you look at this life itself and you analyze the situation, you are really living in the mind space, not in the total space, not in the body space, not in the total space. You are living in the mind space. How? This is borne out by our experiences. So what you find is that it's interesting. There was some friend of mine just sent me kind of like a joke and a funny, not a joke, but a kind of a funny talk by someone. And it says that, he's addressing people who have been cooped up in their homes without any travel due to COVID. And they are now anxious to spread their wings and travel to go to Italy and France and Europe and this, that, or the other. So this person is telling them, please come to Italy, but remember, we can only please you so much because you are the prisoner of your own thinking. If you are upset before you came, you are going to continue to be upset after you came. Maybe a little bit less because of the distraction of travel, but your mind, you are really in the cocoon of your own thoughts. And says, don't come and enjoy until you understand this. Anyway, it's very true. It's exactly what Vedanta says, which is our experience. One time, Swami Dayanandji, I think this was a real life case. I think I've told you about this before. So when he was in Rishikesh, Swami Dayanandji, when he was in Rishikesh, there was a sadhu who used to attend his classes. And he was very fond of meditation in the morning. He would get up and so on. So one day he asked Swamiji, he said, Swamiji, can you please arrange for me to stay at higher elevations of the Ganga in Uttarkashi? So there are several places 40-50 kilometers higher upstream from Rishikesh. And one place is called Uttarkashi, lots of other places. He says that I understand that you know some people there, there's a couple of ashrams. Can you please arrange for me to go there? Can you call someone and tell them that this sadhu is interested in coming? So Swamiji said, yeah, I think I can do that, but why are you going? Why are you going there? He says, Rishikesh has become too noisy for me. It's just because I have, I want to meditate, it's total silence, and right from the early morning there's scooter rickshaws and taxis and people honking, and he says, I can't meditate. So Swamiji said, well, he's not a very deep meditator, he gets easily distracted, but okay, fine. So he says, okay, I'll arrange for it. So he did that. He went to Uttarkashi. Swamiji says that one time I was sitting there after 6 months. I see the same boy sitting there. So he says, hey, when did you come back from Uttarkashi? He says, sir, I tried going there. So Swamiji said, wasn't it very quiet? So he says, yeah, it was very quiet, but there was a new problem that I had not seen before. He says somehow in that forest surrounding the Ganga, Uttarkashi is right on the banks of Ganga. I don't know if it's called Ganga there because there's 2 or 3 tributaries that come together to become Ganga. I forget what that place I think it's called Devaprayag and so on. So I don't remember. But he says that it was foresty. He says the birds get up so early in the morning and they make such a ruckus that I cannot meditate. Swamiji says, really? He says, yeah. He says that the birds are chirping and they are just, I just want quiet. He says, I couldn't do it. And so I thought that this would be even better. I'm just back again. So Swamiji was reciting this and he says, wherever you go, you have your... So this is a case of a sadhu becoming a meditator. But otherwise, you find people, wherever they go, they live in the cocoon of their own thinking. They don't like this, they don't like people to do that, and they're always looking for somebody to criticize, and they have this uncomfortable mental vrittis that they're living with. And wherever they are, that is going with them. So even in this life, you're living in the house of your mind. And all that happens when we change our body, because the body has become unserviceable. All the parts are falling down and Ishvara is doing the best to support it, but after that he says, you know what, you better give this up. You cannot really do this anymore. Your kidneys are failing, your heart is failing, your bloodstream is strokes, this, that or the other. But your mind is still there. And so as a person that goes from one life to the other, your mind would stay with you. And of course the mind is such that when you are born as a baby, then the full expression of what your mental thinking is not there yet at the baby stage. And so you're still fumbling around, you're still trying to figure out what is left, what is right, and so on. But slowly, as the person becomes an adult, the same tendencies come back. Might be some changes here and there, minor changes, but basically it remains the same. And so really speaking, the human being from going from one life to the other, so this soul of the human being, which in our view is called Sukshma Sharira, will stay. And you live within the cocoon of that mind space. In a way, it is kind of like a room space. So you have your own private room. And this private room continues on from one life to the other. This private room of your mind. And it is of course supported by Ishvara because you demand it, you've asked for it. He says, you know what, I want to keep this, because you have an individuality. Ishvara at any point one says, don't you want to see that you and I are one the same? You are the total space, not this room space. You're not this just mental space. There's no mental space. You have contrived it to be a mental state, but in fact there is no boundaries to it. You are the whole thing. Yes, you have a boundary, but that's not who you are. You've sort of surrounded yourself in the cocoon of your mind. Your basic Satyam is the space, Chidakasha. But you don't listen and you say, no. I don't understand all of that. I just want to live in this mind space and I want to improve it. Can you please help me to improve it? Goes on, life to the life. And then you have to go through another birth. And then as you go through the experiences, who knows that everything will become okay. All of a sudden you can become angry. You know, you have a road rage, and in the anger you can hurt somebody, and now you have to pay for it, another few lives. Who knows? Mahati vanashti. Mahati vinashti. Who knows what will be there? Finally, you have to take responsibility and turn towards Ishvara and say, okay, enough is enough. What do I need to do? Can you please help me? And so now this is where the understanding of the relative partnership between Jiva and Ishvara become very important. So this resorting to even a recognition of the presence of Ishvara, because for a long time we ignore it. Ignore it because you feel that I am the doer. And whatever I do, I am willing to gain the results of my actions based on my life. And just, I don't know what, just leave it to me. If I suffer, I suffer, but this is what I need to do. I'm doing the best I can. And I am the one who is really figuring it out for myself. Who else is doing it for me? No one seems to really be responsible. You yourself tell me that I have to be responsible, and I am. So the Shastra says, you were too quick to pounce on my statement, Atmana Vindate Viryam. Yes, I did tell you that you have to take responsibility. And I did say that. And you do have to take responsibility, because unless you figure out where's the source of my happiness? Where is the real source and where is the reflected source? If you don't get to the very source of happiness, you're right. You're going to be confused. So you have to really get your minds up and says, I want to really understand this. This is the responsibility part. But you were too quick to stop there and say, I am responsible, I'll figure it all out. You are missing a very important piece, without which you have a distorted view of what your responsibility is. And that is the help that your Ishvara, the next door person, who is your relationship, who is your long-time relationship person, that contribution you're ignoring. And it's a distorted view. It's just like saying, I can, there's nothing else that I need to do. I can just live on my own. I'm responsible for it. And I don't know how the food is digested. I don't know how the elimination system works. I don't know about my breathing. I don't need my blood circulation. I don't know about my weight control. I don't know. There's so much going on inside my body. I'm foolish if I don't see the presence of something bigger than that. My mind, my parents did not manufacture my heart, my kidneys, my pancreas. They just conceived me, that's it. But all of that, how it was all made up? Am I not being so short-sighted and foolish in not recognizing that? If I can't even recognize this, how can I recognize the long-term relationship that you spoke of earlier? Who is my best relationship relative to me? Ishvara. Guru as the representative of the Ishvara. So, it's interesting that we often talk about Satguru. Who is the Satguru? So the Satguru is the one who doesn't have any relationship. I think this is the good way to really, this is the way to evaluate who is a Satguru versus not Satguru. If a guru also has an agenda of being associated through your body, your status in life and so on, not a guru. Because it has to be done on a Satchidananda basis, long term. No relationship at all with the body, your status, your problems, nothing. You as the Atma. If the Guru is the one who is with the teaching, through the teaching, committed to that freedom, then that is the Guru that is what a Satguru is. And if the Guru is more responsible for your friendship, your commitment, your loyalty, all the other support, money, this, that, or the other, it's not a Satguru. It's just like any other relationship. All of them have limited usefulness. But the Guru as the representative of the Shastra has nothing to do with your body, with your mind. Nothing. Focus purely on your Atma. That is the Satguru. So anyway, then so what we need to do is, yes, one part of that is to take responsibility, no doubt about it. So in this partnership, there are two segments to it. One is the contribution of the Jiva, and the other one is the contribution of the Ishvara. And the contribution of the Jiva is taking responsibility. The second part is to intelligently recognize the contribution of Ishvara. Intelligently recognize. It's there, but I don't recognize it. And we saw the recognition, the lack of recognition even in normal life. But on a larger scale of life, I have to recognize the contribution of Ishvara, my Creator. And that is to see the presence of Ishvara as yourself. And turning your attention to what is the nature of Ishvara as yourself. Seeing that you are okay and full without any external help. And that recognition, that presence, that help will come if you recognize it and submit yourself to that vision. So we will spend more time in the next class. There's quite a bit to talk about on that score. And that leads us to the third chapter, which we will begin from next class. But even before that, I will complete this introduction to the importance of the third chapter in recognizing the relative contributions of both segments of my jivatvam, which is a personal responsibility on one, and also the submission of my submission to my support system, which is Ishvara. It's kind of like, what do I need to do? And when can I just transfer my responsibility to you? And not hog it on my own. Don't completely just say, this is all my doing. This is a fine line that I have to understand. And the Shastra helps me to understand. This is what all Upanishads, and here also the Kena Upanishad is trying to get us to see, and so we will proceed along those lines. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yes, Laleshwari, you're right, Jaya Chaudhary, that's the person. Alaknanda and Bhagirathi, they both joined together. Darshana, you're right, they're the rivers. I'm not sure, so this is the part that I'm not sure that whether Uttarkashi is after they join together or before they do. So that's I think that's before, so it could be in either Alaknanda or the Bhagirathi. Balamanichi says, if the true Guru is not identifiable, then can one approach Ishvara as a Guru? How is it possible? With Ishvara accept? Sorry for filing questions. Sorry for filing questions? No, you don't have to be sorry for any questions or anything. Well, no, I mean, it's true that you can approach Ishvara as a Guru, but how will that transaction take place? I mean, you, of course, the Guru is the representative of Ishvara. So the thing is that the Ishvara is not in a form to really uh, to teach you directly. It has to go through a medium of somebody, and that is the Guru that he sends. And if you approach Ishvara for a Guru, then in some form or the other somebody will come to help you, and you have to recognize who that person is. It's a question of recognition. You see people, and also your own wisdom and your own qualifications. And so I find people glomming on to some people who are not very knowledgeable, because they themselves didn't deserve anyone. And so whoever they saw that could solve the problem, they just were desperate to glom on to them. And I see this happening. And so it a lot depends on your eligibility, your preparation, and your sincerity. And then you keep your antennas open, and it may not happen. You may not find someone. To answer your question, yes, of course you can approach the Guru, but you can approach Ishvara, but you have to say, please send someone to teach it to me. How else is Ishvara going to teach? So, okay. Don't see any other questions. I'm very happy that all of you took the opportunity for this class, and I hope to see you again soon. I think I may have mentioned this in the last class also, but let me say that again. I've been remiss as not sending you this email. So after the experience of having the Zoom class a couple of weeks ago, then I talked to a couple of my students, including Chawla, and what we have decided is that we will continue the teaching only in YouTube, but then have a satsang once a quarter for a longer period. So for like hour and a half, even more than that. So that's going to be on Saturday, the 13th of November, will be the first one. And so what I will do is to send you an email with an invitation to attend that satsang. And it might be facilitated if you could send me your questions ahead of time, and on any subject really, any Vedantic subject. It doesn't have to be just on this class. In fact, I will invite all the 3 classes to participate in this Zoom satsang session, and you can send questions, and I think I'll ask you to send it to Chawla so she can actually group them. If there are a couple of similar questions, she says there are 2 questions that you can answer them together, and you'll have a month to send the questions, and then based on that I will respond with my answers if I know the answers. And then also if you can also ask the questions live in the Zoom session. So I will send you an email with all of these details, and hopefully we will hold it on the 13th of November. All right? Okay, very good. See you later. Hari Om.